This is Kevin Pruitt catching back up with my friend Evan Kubicek after 6 long months. Not like we haven't talked in that time, but Evan,
Yeah.
thanks for
Try
joining
to
us tonight.
avoid each other. Try to avoid each other as much as possible.
We didn't have any conferences or anything that we could sit in the back and heckle the speaker at.
Absolutely.
It's just
Those
good to catch
days.
up with you, and I appreciate you taking a little time tonight just to kind of give us a little quick recap from the last 6 months. So, tell us what's happened. What are the big rocks that have moved in the last 6 months?
Well, let's see. When was our actual call? I forgot the date. Was that I
It
should
was
know.
late January.
Late January? Okay.
Yeah.
So my income streams vary and a lot of different roles. So I think in that season I just kicked off a new full-time contract with another university locally, or a lot closer. So that was in full swing. That was great. I got to teach some sales classes, which I've never really done before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they shouldn't have trusted me to teach sales. I did, and it was fun to be able to get into that. Things that I've experienced in the professional realm to some degree, but to be on the teaching side of it, you always learn so much.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially teaching and you're not comfortable. So I always learn a ton having to be in that role to stand there, act like I know what I'm talking about, and to get students to respond. And so particularly now, I think probably in our day, and you're leaps and bounds older than I am, but in
I just hit pause and rewind now.
okay, so the 8 a.m. college classes that we dreaded in college, that is now 9:30. It's no longer 8 o'clock. It's if a kid has a 9:30 class, you expect zero engagement from them whatsoever. Your hopes that they're awake. So I had a 9:30 sales class this past semester.
9:30 is the new 8, huh?
9:30 is the new 8, and wow, it was rough to get them going, but that was fun. I got to do back to some entrepreneurship classes again, which is always fun. I think that's the biggest thing. Outside of the teaching realm, anything particularly new? I was actually teaching that. I was teaching that, and I was also teaching 3 classes online for another university. I technically had 7 college courses that I was teaching in the spring semester. So that's about all I could manage.
Wow.
In addition to 4 children, and yeah, that was about as much as I had going on, and so really not a whole lot outside of that. It was really just really hands-on teaching a lot.
You didn't have any time outside of that.
No, not so much. Now this summer I've re-engaged. I was kind of involved with some consulting, kind of embedded myself in a local company that does kind of office technology, mostly copy machines, everything, but they do other things. So I'm embedded in there, deep in kind of operations. I've kind of been an interim COO, director of operations to some degree, but mostly it's been more on the CFO side. It's been looking at their accounts payable and receivables, and things that just make people full of joy, reconciling
Reading balance sheets.
and invoices and payments and all that kind of stuff. But it's a necessary thing that has to get done. So it's been great to be operational, and I love that ability to go from classroom to hands-on. I've done a couple workshops this summer already, some entrepreneurship workshops for teenagers. Got a communication one here on Friday that I'll be speaking at. So I just love variety. Got the firefighting. Got to go to this fire college this summer and meet the actors from Chicago Fire. Were out to training with us.
Wow.
Like a live fire with us, and have to rescue dummies. I love that I get to wear all these different hats. The township assessor, I do other things as well. It's rural. It's rural life too. So you get to kind of
absolutely jack of all trades. If I call you in 6 more months, you're probably going to be like an astronaut and a brain surgeon.
I hope so. Maybe not the surgery because I got a little
in the
bit
rural areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the mayor. That's right.
Always enjoyed that variety.
And the mayor. Well, let me ask you.
I contemplated a county board run.
Is there? And we were talking a little bit offline before we hit the recorder button. But is there one big change from your business or business side of things that you were doing in January that you're not currently doing, or did you add something other than the teaching load, specifically maybe to you related to your coaching or?
Yeah, I picked up. I think I've decreased the amount of life coaching, and I've stepped up more in the area of kind of business consulting. specifically more in what's referred to. It's got a plethora of names, but kind of a business transformation, business mission, more in that area. So working with at least one client fairly regularly, based out of North Africa. They're kind of in a position where it's sales and marketing. So it I mirrored a lot what I was teaching, which was great to be able to hands-on in that area. And then potentially have another trip coming up here in August to head overseas and kind of catch up with another business overseas. I think that's probably the thing which is what I love, which I love of that a lot, to be able to do that, to be able to, to sit in, to be a part of the action.
Sure.
I think if you ask most entrepreneurs, I remember we had an investor in one of the companies I worked with previously, and he was jealous because, he'd cashed out and he was in this position where he was no longer operational.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him sitting around the table and we had this like huge burden in front of us, like this epic thing we had to try to accomplish. And he was like, I'm so excited. I'm so jealous. Like, I wish I could, this is the time of your life. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like that 30-year-old guy still wearing racers, talking to the kids about his high school career.
Yeah.
I think, entrepreneurs that reach that level, I think that's why serial entrepreneurs exist, because it's just it's so much fun to be neck deep in problems.
Yep.
At the time, it doesn't feel like it, but when you're out of it,
it's like athletes. It's like professional athletes. When their career runs, hits the twilight of their career, they're like, I'll do anything. I'll just to stay in the game, and often they stay in the game too long. But it is. It's exactly. It's not really the pursuit as much as it's the journey. Because that's just the way that, entrepreneurs are just wired that way. That's just how they're created. And I mean, there's something innate built into them to cause them to enjoy even kind of the risk, that's involved with,
absolutely.
With it,
absolutely.
So it's just fun to watch. But so I want to ask you, so I did a little peek back at the notes from the first time we talked, and there were a couple of things. I mean, as we get to the end of episodes,
red flags.
No,
I think we need to just come back and check on.
So you said this. Point of order.
Did you not?
That's right. Can you confirm or deny? Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things you mentioned, and I really like this, but you said your life quote at that time was live in the tension. And it doesn't sound like to me that you moved very far away from that. So would you still say that's pretty close to kind of, if you have a life mantra or whatever, and maybe it was like learn to live in the tension,
It actually that came up last night in a conversation. We're part of kind of a small group, a group of other couples and families that gets together on a regular basis, and that came up last night. I think not everyone that's interested in startups or that's particular, I would say, vein that I'm in is taking my faith and taking the things that I believe in, and other people that also have that same passion for the God of the Bible, for the relationship with Jesus, and saying, there's things that he taught that I want to try to put into my business practices. And knowing how to do that's the multi-million-dollar question. Now, unfortunately, people won't pay me millions of dollars to help them do that. I wish they would. But really, that's a great challenge and struggle, and that's the challenge I love the most. But for me, whether it's business or it doesn't matter what genre it is, I think it's impossible to be one thing all the time and really truly honor the teachings that Jesus provided for people to live out, because he never did anything the same way twice, ever. And you'd always try to say, like, well, he's this, and he'd do the total opposite. Or like, no, he's like this. And he was, he's always kind of pushing the boundaries and living in this, like, was he all love? Like, absolutely. He was very loving. Was he hardcore? You better believe it. When someone busts out a whip and starts beating people, like, that's not the definition of love that we would see put on the news today. So I would say that aspect of being able to really dive in and look at a situation and look at it from that 40,000 foot view and say, what are we really trying to accomplish here?
Yep.
And that's the thing that I love to do the most. And I think as an outsider, as a consultant or as a coach, I get to step into a situation and be like, everyone's got their point of view, and probably everyone is right to some degree, and everyone's wrong to some degree. Like, so we need to figure out exactly what are we trying to accomplish and what needs to happen right now.
Right.
It doesn't mean this is where we're always going to be, but in this season, this is how we need to be now. And we won't always be this way, but this is what has to happen to get us to that next stage, as long as we've got that end goal in mind. So, absolutely.
Doing the thing. Yeah, just doing the thing in front of you. You know, it's the next step that's in front of you, knowing that, you know, we are looking kind of through a glass dimly, you know, right now. And so, yeah, I love the way that you kind of unpack that. And so let me circle back with something else that you mentioned that I'm really interested to hear your take 6 months later. But you know, we always ask, what advice would you have given your kind of earlier stage self? And one thing that I wrote down, you said, acquire a skill or be excellent at a trade.
Yeah.
So unpack that just a little bit. I mean, is that still, you know, where does that fit in your continuum?
I'll quote one of so I have an online class this summer that I just wrapped up. It was a management class for non-business majors. So I've had like construction people, some health administrative people, engineering students, a whole mix of kind of majors in there. And I have one student in particular. He's a full-time engineer for a manufacturing facility in the area. And he talked about, I'm in here now, but now I find myself, I'm not doing anything that's engineering related. I'm working with people all the time, and it's way harder, than working on a process or a system or diagramming something. And I think so that is but I think so the challenge is like, if you love working with people like I do, I love that aspect of things, and I don't care about the engineering side. I'm like, it's interesting and I could do it for a couple hours, but it's not something I want to spend weeks on. I get a quick overview and I understand things on a broad level very quickly, but I don't want to sit there and optimize the process for that long. But the problem is that until you're really good at something, you don't get the buy-in to be able to get entrance to an organization to be able to work on its culture or its DNA. You have to be good at. You have to earn your place. So you can learn. You can do that in a lot of different ways. It doesn't matter. It can be we have people doing the dumbest things nowadays. People watch this video for 3 minutes long because someone did something really cool at the start, and then all of a sudden they're giving you life advice.
Exactly.
Like, this guy, So it's an odd. I don't know what that principle is. I've never heard anyone like define it necessarily. But what if it's just the expert principle, whatever it is? We listen to a former NBA player give us budgeting advice. Like, what in the world does this person really know about this or health advice?
He's got a platform. He's got an audience.
Yeah, for sure. But that doesn't come until there's something that they've truly become proficient in.
Right.
So that's that thing, So I think if there's anyone that's kind of been like me, where you're interested in all these different things, and you're not really particularly interested in one, just suck it up and become good at something.
Yep.
And allow that to kind of set the stage for some other things to get involved into.
And you're not locked in for life. I mean,
no, not at all.
But how many people are graduating from university now with I'm not picking on any particular degree, but a liberal arts degree that virtually prepares you for nothing, in the next step, other than the fact you just finish,
Yeah, there's even more technical degrees now that have become so watered down, and the entrance to them and the acceptance rates have become so watered down that, I mean, the reality is employment is that if you don't have certifications and experience,
it's hard to do.
I can care less. Like, there's the people that I've hired in the past, it was just kind of like, you have a bachelor's check, which is sad. That's become a check mark. It's, a 4-year-long check mark that costs so much is crazy. So I'm a part of that industry. I'm drinking the milk off of it for sure. But
it's evolving too. I mean, the industry itself it has to change. I mean, even with there's this guy that's talks about hacking your life, and he's created this thing called Uncollege. That, I mean, if you've read anything on even hacking their skills and education together through Khan Academy and through YouTube and through courses online and things like that. So it's really almost a combination of what you just described, of acquiring a skill through hacking it together. So they can actually, they're proficient at something because they've actually gone out and tried to learn that skill, like you outlined. So let me wrap up this chat, this kind of recap here, and I'm throwing you a curve here because this is a new question I literally just thought of as you were talking.
It's been boring.
No, not at all. Here's the wrap up question, because. And I'm going to draw on you're one of the guests that I invited to the show that has a tremendous amount of experience in consulting, and so I know a lot of our listeners are early in their stage, startups or whatever. But you and I just stepped on an elevator. We're going about 14 floors. So
yep.
What's one or two in this elevator ride we're going right now for the next minute?
Yep.
Talk to me, the listener, and say, here's one or two sage pieces of advice. I don't care what you're doing in the entrepreneurial space, but these two things are pillars. Know these two things and do these two things.
Yeah, if you don't know your customer and you don't know the problem that you're solving, all the other stuff is pointless to be working on just yet. And I think a lot of people get lost. They get lost in the weeds, and they get lost in all the cool stuff. Like, I'm gonna get all my social marketing. I'm gonna build this marketing engine. I'm gonna do, like, what are you selling?
Fancy website. Yep.
Yeah, you can. So we get all caught up in things to make it look like we're successful, but at the end of the day, until you have people that are begging you to buy what it is that you're offering, you don't have a business. You have an idea. So get to that point. I would say get to that point and try to, like, delay selling to some degree. Not to a ridiculous amount, but
right.
You want to get to the point where you have enough people, like, saying, like, how can I buy? How can I buy? How can I buy? When you get to there, then you're finally ready to start working on optimizing the systems and processes, and working on your sales funnel, and making sure you're not losing people, and working on your keywords and all that kind of stuff. But until you really know, like, there's this whole group of people, and you can put names and faces and personas to them, and they all have this particular problem that they're trying to deal with. Like, until you're there, you're just wasting time and energy and all these other things. And moving fast and be willing to I have to be cautious how I would describe it.
We're getting close to 4:14.
I know. We're so just move quickly. Don't worry about all specifics.
Pivot.
Go out, find people, pivot, find the opportunity, and meet the need as quickly as you can, and learn from it, and realize that the first few customers are definitely not going to be your ideal customer, most likely. And you're going to learn through that process, and it's completely all right.
That refers back to point number one, actually. It's because knowing your customer is a process. I mean, it's a dynamic measure. It's not necessarily a static measure.
Yeah.
It's not it's a movie. It's not a snapshot. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Evan, buddy, thank you so much for taking time tonight and just give us a little quick snapshot back into your life and recapping, 6 months from now. And man, I hope to capture you again in the next few months and have you back on the show. It's always a pleasure to cross paths with you. And I love the way you wrapped it up with that. Let me reiterate what he said. He said, know your customer or you really don't have a business. Really know your customer or you really don't have a business. I mean, that is incredibly sage advice. And once again, I appreciate you just taking the time and helping our listeners and speaking into so many different things in your first interview or the first conversation and this one as well, and just helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Evan, thanks again.
Absolutely.